Hey friends, it's Mike. I'm back with another project guitar. This one is interesting. It is a Echophone, E-C-H-O-P-H-O-N-E, Echophone. Now I looked on the internet and I really couldn't find anything about Echophone guitars, but I did find that they were an electronics company going back into the 1960s, 50s and 60s. So I'll do a little more homework on that and I'll put a link down below. So it looks like they jumped into the guitar game back in the 1960s, and if I had to date this, and again it's a little tough because there's no information on the guitar, or any Echophone guitars for that matter, so I'm going to have to take a guess based upon the Univox and the Electra that I built. It's probably late 60s, and so you can see here how it's designed. The pots work, they're scratchy, so I'll have to clean them up with some deoxit. This is the pickup selector, so this is the neck, this is the bridge, and I'm not really sure what this does. I see an R and an S, so not until I string her up will I be able to really tell what this switch does, but I'll figure it out. Okay, so it's got the trem bar, vibrato, and going to have to tighten it up a little bit here. It is very dirty, so I'm going to have to clean it up. There is a ding here, but for a guitar that's 50 years old, that should be expected. Okay, here's the bridge. Unlike the other ones, which were floating bridges, this one is actually fastened to the guitar. This is the typical pickups that came out of the made in Japan guitars in the late 60s, early 70s. The neck is in nice shape. There's no cracks. I will wind up having to pull the frets. They do have fret wear. Hopefully this will go into focus so you can see it. And I'll re-radius the fretboard. I haven't taken a look at it yet. I'm assuming it's 7 1/4. Turn around. Let's take a look. The neck looks good. There's no real dings on it. We have a little spot here. There are the tuners. I'll pull them out and clean them up. Put some grease in the gear here on each one of the tuners. There is it says Japan here. I don't know if you can make that out. One of the reasons why I like this guitar is because it's not a bolt-on. So that's interesting. Alright, it's got a little stress crack here. It's not in the wood, it's in the finish. And actually a lot of guitars you buy today will get that as well over time. So all in all, for a guitar that's around 50 years old or so, older, she's in nice shape. So I'll be putting her together, and as I always do, I'll film the progress, and you guys can take a look at how she starts and then how she ends. Okay, so that's it for this intro on this guitar. Again, it's a Echophone. Anybody that has any information on the guitar, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. That would be appreciated. Okay? Alright guys and gals, talk to you soon, and we'll be back with another update. Okay, so I started taking this Echophone apart, and the strings are off, and you can see more where the frets are worn, and maybe you can see the headstock a little better now. I cleaned it up a little bit. So I took the pick guard off, and the bridge, the tailpiece, and this is a nice feature here with a semi-hollow. I'm able to open this up, and I've got this nice big cavity to work with. Take a look at it's dirty, which, let's get this into focus now, which is to be expected with a guitar this old. So I'm going to blow that out with some compressed air, and then I'll hit the pots and all the other connections with deoxit, and that should do it. Okay, I do think I'm going to wax pot these pickups. I did it with the Electra as well. I'm just going to do it as a precautionary measure. I don't want to get the whole guitar built then plug her in and find out that the pickups are microphonic. So I'll just tackle that up front. It's not a hard thing to do, so we'll do that. Okay, so I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to clean out the electronics here, the switches and the pots, and then I'm going to pull the frets. All right, so be back. Okay, so I cleaned her up a little bit. There was a lot of grime on the body, and so she's looking much better now. You can see here that I cleaned up the electronics and the pots. Again, I used compressed air, then I used some deoxit, and then I wiped off the excess. I'll let that dry a little bit, but it's looking really good now. I am going to plug these holes. I do this by adding some Tite Bond and some good quality toothpicks. This way when I screw down the tailpiece and the bridge, there's no wobbling of the screws. All right, so it'll be a nice tight fit. That's about it for now, I guess. I'm going to start the fret pulling. Oh, the one thing I am going to do is I'm going to touch this up a little bit with some cherry red lacquer, and I'll show you what that looks like afterwards. Okay, so making some progress. All right, you guys and gals, see you later. All right, so we're back, and all of the holes have been plugged. Here with a pick guard, just going to go back. So again, the way I do this is I take some Tite Bond with a toothpick and I put it in the hole, and then I take some very good quality toothpicks and push them in, and then clip them right at the surface. And this helps for a very tight grip when the screw goes in to put either the bridge or the tailpiece back on, or the pick guard. I also pulled the frets. The frets came out very easy, so no issues there. It is a 9.5 inch radius on this neck. I mentioned in the earlier segment that it might be 7 1/4, and I was just going by other guitars I worked on for this era, but it is 9.5 inches. So I'll order those frets, and I will lightly sand the fretboard to re-radius to get a nice fresh look to the fretboard. I'm probably going to replace this nut. Looks like the original nut. And we're making progress. Okay, so I'll be back probably within a week or so, guys and gals. After the frets come in, I'll put those in and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, have a great day and we'll talk soon. Okay, so I'm back working on the Echophone, and it's been a number of weeks, maybe 6 weeks, so I don't know where I left off with the other video. So if I repeat myself, just cut me a little bit of slack. So what I did was I pulled all the frets, and I'm installing new frets now. Okay, and then also I took out the pickups. You can see I clipped them here and here, and I wax potted the pickups. I'll put a link in the description box so you guys can take a look at that video. The guy does a nice job. Okay, so again, this is a late 60s, made in Japan, and I love putting these things back together. So when she's done, she's going to look great. Okay, so let me put the rest of the frets on, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look at how she came out. All right, so we have the frets in. They came out nice, and I did clip the ends here. The frets have not been dressed yet or leveled. I just got them seated. Now, the thing I want to call out with this guitar is it has what is referred to as a 0 fret. This is this fret right here. 0 fret because this is the first fret. On some guitars, they put a fret here which acts as the nut. So think of this fret, the 0 fret, as the nut. The nut behind it does not function like a nut. What it does is it essentially keeps the strings in line. When you work on a guitar and you do fret work on a 0 nut guitar, you have to make sure that this fret, which is really the nut, is higher or has more height than the rest of the frets. So what I did here was I installed a jumbo fret for the 0 fret, the nut, and these are medium height frets. Okay, so jumbo height, medium height. Now the reason why you want to do that is because if you use the same height fret here, you're not going to be able to play the guitar because the strings are all going to buzz. because the strings will lie on top of the frets. So you need some more height here. Okay, hopefully that made sense. So again, just remember when you're working on a 0 fret guitar, this fret, the 0 fret, must have more height than the rest of the frets on the guitar. So jumbo fret, medium fret, and you're going to be okay. As I progress and I work with this, I'll show you how to get this all level to make sure that the guitar plays properly. Okay? So that's basically it for fret work today. I'll do the fret leveling and the fret dress at another time. What I am going to do now is reinstall the pickups. They have been wax potted, so I just have the wires spliced here. So I'll reconnect them, and I use liquid tape, which is great stuff, to get the pickups reconnected to the leads here, and then I will get the plate positioned properly, screwed in, and she'll be all set from an electronics and pickup perspective. Okay? She's coming out nice. It's an old guitar. I'm saying late 60s. I don't know. It could be mid 60s. I don't know. And I've looked high and low for this guitar. Let me move the light here for a second. You see it says Echophone. And I haven't found anything online. So if you good folks who are watching this know something, please feel free to leave a comment. Okay? All right. I'll catch up later. Bye, guys. Okay, so we're getting there. It's been a few days, maybe about a week. And the frets are all in. They're level. They're polished. The fretboard's in very, very good shape. I'm going to keep this nut here because, like I mentioned in the previous segment, it doesn't really act as a nut. It's really a guide for the strings. The 0 fret here is actually the nut. All right, so everything is in. It's looking very good. I've got the tailpiece vibrato back on. You can see here there's a piece of blue tape that's underneath this little cap here. Now on these old Japanese guitars, this is the cap, which is the base for the spring for the vibrato, and many times it's missing. So believe it or not, I found a guy on eBay that actually makes them, and so I glued it in. And so the blue tape is there to make sure none of the glue drips onto the body itself. And this way we won't lose that piece anymore. The bridge is in, and we've got the original pick guard on, and again, you guys have seen this already. I put the electronics back in. So she's looking very, very good. Looking real nice. I'm going to put the strings on her now, and then once I get the strings on, then I will have to work the 0 nut. So I have to get it down to a height in which it has the proper clearance over the rest of the frets, especially the first fret. Okay, so when I get to that part, I'll show you what I'm doing, but I really can't do it until I get the strings on because the strings are necessary in order to measure the gap between the bottom of the string and the first fret. Okay, so there you go. An old late 60s Echophone. She's looking real nice, and I'll be back. Okay, so we ran into a little bit of a problem. And the problem is that the bridge had to be moved back 3/8 of an inch. The reason was because when I was trying to intonate the guitar at the 12th fret, I couldn't even come close, which means way back when, back in the late 60s when this guitar was manufactured, the bridge was not placed in the proper place on the body. And it's not a floating bridge. You can see here that it's bolted onto the body. So I don't know if you can see this, but here's the imprint from the side of the bridge here. So I had to move it back here, and that's 3/8 of an inch. And once I did that, I was able to get the guitar intonated, so she's good to go now. Very interesting though, almost 50 years, and there's no way this guitar was intonated properly. So we've got it now. Now the next thing I'm going to work on is the 0 fret here, because I did check the intonation here. So open E, I should be able to get F sharp at 12 o'clock on my tuner, and I don't. It leans to the right, which means it's going sharp on me. And these strings here are okay, so the E, the B, and the G are okay. The D is a little off, but the A and the E are off. So which means I have to lower the clearance between the bottom of the string and what we would consider the first fret. Okay, so I'm going to work on that now, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm essentially going to have to file down the 0 fret to lower it in places where I need to lower it so I can reduce the gap. Hopefully this makes sense. And when I do that, the intonation on the first 2 frets will be set. I already have the intonation set on the 12th fret because I had to move the bridge back 3/8 of an inch. So, okay, this is why these project guitars are called project guitars. Not everything goes smoothly, but she's coming out great, and so I'll be back in a bit. So hopefully you can see this. What I did is I aligned the slots on the nut with some slots that I put on the 0 fret. Now the reason why I have these slots is to lower the string, because the string was sitting too high above the first fret. There was too much of a gap, and when that happens, when you play your notes on the 1st and 2nd fret, they're going to go sharp on you. So basic rule of thumb is, you can see here I have this string action ruler, and you see right here 0.010 inches. So that would be your 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and you might want to go a little higher, like maybe 0.011 or 0.012 on the 6th and 5th, which would be your E and A. But your D and G, certainly 0.010 gap. That's the gap between the bottom of the string and the top of the 1st fret. And then for your 1st string, your E, and your 2nd, the B, you want it below 0.010. So maybe a little bit above the halfway mark of this black bar right here. Alright, so I'll go through it again. The 6th string, low E, 0.010 to 0.012. The A string, same thing, 0.010 to 0.012 gap. That's the gap between the bottom of the string and the top of the 1st fret. For the 4th string, which is the D, and the 3rd string, the G, you want 0.010 gap. And then for your 2nd string and your 1st string, which would be your B, and the 1st string being your high E, below 0.010. But don't go below the halfway mark on this black bar, because if you do, then you run the risk of having the strings buzz. Okay? So if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend that you invest in one of these string action rulers. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to keep the slots there or the divots there. I'm going to file the fret, smooth it, and then crown it so that it looks like this, but it will then have the proper height. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Other than that, the guitar is going well. The other thing I want to point out is, when I did the bridge, I did have to place some felt underneath the bass here. So between the body and the base of the bridge, there's felt. And the reason why I did that was because without the felt, there was a lot of vibration between the bridge itself and this hollow body. This is very hollow. And so I was getting a lot of distortion when I strummed. But as soon as I cushioned the bottom of the bass of the bridge with the top of the guitar itself, the body, with the felt, it all went away. Alright, so basically I put some buffer in there and everything worked out well. Alright, so let me finish up the 0 fret now and I'll be back. Okay, so we finished up the 0 fret. You can see it's been re-crowned, it's been polished, there are no slots or divots anymore. We have the proper height between the bottom of the string and the top of the 1st fret. And she's sounding pretty good. And so let me plug her in and listen to how she sounds, and I'll finish up this video with a final segment and I'll show you the final product. Okay? Alright, you guys and gals, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll be back. Okay, so she's done, and I think she came out great. Let's take a look. I tried to keep her as stock as I possibly could. It's an old Echophone, and I have not, as I've said a couple times in this video, found any information about this company with regard to guitars. I did find information with regard to its business in the electronics industry, but not as far as guitars go. So the tuners are stock except for the collars. I put new collars in. This is a 0 fret guitar, so I put all new frets in, and the 0 fret operates as the nut. It functions as a nut. The nut itself is really a string guide, so it doesn't function like a normal nut would, and that is the original nut on the guitar. As I mentioned, all of the frets were replaced, so it was refretted. The fingerboard itself, the rosewood, was in excellent condition. The guitar really wasn't played that much. Those are the original pickups. I did wax pot them because with these old Japanese guitars, a lot of times they're not wax potted, and so when you plug it in and you turn the gain or the volume up, you're going to get some noise. They're going to be microphonic. So I have found, as I work with these guitars, the simple thing to do is to wax pot them. That's the original bridge. I did have to reposition the bridge. I had to move it back about 1/2 inch. Here you can see the indentation from where the bridge used to sit, and it's here now. And the reason why I had to move it back again was because where it used to be originally, I could not intonate the guitar from the 12th fret up. It was impossible. It would not intonate. So by moving it back, I was able to do that, and now she's intonated perfectly. Now when the bridge was 1/2 inch forward, it was sitting on top of a brace underneath the inside of the guitar. That's what kept the bridge from vibrating and getting resonance or vibration through the strings. When I moved it back, it was no longer sitting on top of that brace. The vibration was going through the bridge and it was interacting with the body because there's no brace under the bridge here. It is here, but not here. So what I wound up doing, if you can see this, is I put some rubberized washers underneath the bridge, and that absorbs any kind of vibration and actually plays just fine. That's the original vibrato on the guitar. I did have to put this piece in. There's a guy in Australia that makes these little cups that go inside these old Japanese vibratos so that the spring itself does not sit on the body but sits in the cup. And I'll put the link down below for that gentleman, and if you're doing this type of work, he's a great resource to have to get that part. All of the electronics are original. I did not change any of the wiring, any of the pots. I just cleaned them up, sprayed them with the oxide, and she works great. Okay, so there you have it. There's the original pick guard, and she's got a couple of dings here or there, but that's okay. I'm going to peg her at around the mid to late 1960s. Beautiful burst. So she looks great. Okay, so that wraps up this project. All right, guys and gals, thank you for watching, and please comment below.